Hello friends, I am back with another video. I actually tried to film this earlier today, and I did an illustration pretty close to this same illustration, and I had a bunch of different problems with it and hated it, and this is take two. So just remember, if you are ever working on an illustration and it doesn't turn out the way that you want it to, remember you can always start over and switch mediums or switch your setup or do any of the things, because you're not like stuck to just having the idea once, I guess is what I would say. In any case, this did not work out the first time that I tried it, so we're going to try again. And at the very least, I will have just had more practice, so we'll call that a win. I do have a little bit of gouache left in this palette, so I'm going to be stealing some of that as well as the watercolor that's in the palette that I'm currently using. So there's a little bit of a mix there, but don't worry about it. At least I'm not going to. So the first time that I tried this, I was actually working with gouache, and it was my first time working with my Hemi gouache, and for a number of reasons, I don't know how that works, because I haven't really used regular gouache before, and I also haven't used the Hemi gouache before, and I haven't painted in a very long time, aside from just doing like cloud studies. So none of that worked out in my favor. The other thing that really didn't work out was that when I am like impatient with watercolor or gouache drying, I use a hairdryer, and that was fine, except that the paper was not taped down when I started, so it kept wrinkling in ways that I couldn't paint on top of. So there was that. So yeah, that was an experience, and it wasn't one that I enjoyed, but here we are. So we're gonna try again. The other thing that was really unfortunate was that I used a Posca pen to paint in the skeleton and to just paint in parts of her face, and the Posca pen exploded. Just like did not cooperate. So all the way around, it was not a good time, but you can always try again, so that's what we're doing. I don't know that I will have time to edit this before I go out tonight, but it is Halloween, so thus our final hurrah in the Halloween illustration process. I do generally do spooky-ish or spooky-adjacent cute stuff year-round, so it's not like this is my one and done, but it is my time to shine, as it were. This is, in fact, the time that I should be doing this kind of illustration, so I think I need a smaller brush for this. So this time around, I'm not using my Hemi gouache. I'm actually using Magello Mission Gold watercolor, which is probably my favorite medium of all time. The colors are almost impossible to mix incorrectly. So this is my favorite time of year, and all month I've mostly been working in grayscale Ohuhu markers. This is very much the opposite of that, but I feel like I needed to have one last like really good Halloween-esque illustration for the season. And I've really been itching to keep painting. I did do some painting earlier on this week, but it was just clouds.
Hello, hi there, it's me back in voiceover land. I didn't really talk anymore during the course of this illustration. I just kind of put my head down and worked on it, but I figured I'd come back and hang out with you guys a little bit, discuss some things for the upcoming month. So if you have been here at all for the last month. In October, I worked on Ohuhu grayscale marker illustrations so that I could learn how to use markers and get comfortable with using markers as a medium. That was the goal, and I chose grayscale because it was going to be easier than having a full color range and because it was a little bit spookier. Originally, when I started that like challenge for myself, I was thinking that I was going to do a similar thing in November, but either with Hemi-gouache or Artex markers, because I purchased both. During the month of October, I tried to do this illustration, the previous precursor to this illustration with the Hemi-gouache, which was my first attempt using it at all. I haven't used the Artex markers even a little bit yet. That's going to be for a video demo, but I am thinking that rather than doing another challenge like that in November, since I have a lot of other plans, I'm going to do it in December. I'm going to put up a poll on my channel, but also just to ask you here in the comments and in the comments of the next couple of videos that I put out, if you were to watch a series of illustrations and content about one of those two mediums, what would you like to see, and what would you like to learn more about? Because as I am working with the mediums, I find that I expect to find that I'm going to have kind of tips and tricks of how to use them. And I don't know what's more popular these days, the Hemi-gouache or the Artex markers, but I'd love to share whatever it is that I discover along the way with all of you. So if you have a preference as to which you would like to see me work with in December, let me know. I'm going to do some demos, just getting a feel for them this month, but like with both of them. But I have other video plans for the most of November, one of which actually is very exciting. I will have an introduction on my channel for a Skillshare class, because I have been working on filming and editing and scripting and B-rolling and all of the things for a Skillshare class this last like 2 weeks. And it should be done in about a week. So then it'll be available on Skillshare, and I will post a introduction type video for it on my YouTube channel. So you'll be able to access that if you so choose, or if you have Skillshare. I'm going to do a video of like my sketchbook, the sketches that I've done over the course of October, because I did a lot more of them than I normally do. I didn't fill a sketchbook, but I have a pretty substantial sketchbook tour available. So we're going to do that. And I have a couple of other videos that are bouncing around in my mind, so I'll be back and forth with those things. I am really trying to figure out what it is that I want to use this channel for, and mostly I want to tell more stories with my art. I tell the stories to myself oftentimes when I'm deciding what an illustration is going to look like, but I don't always share those thoughts or that thought process with the internet at large. So I'm going to make an effort to start doing that. Yeah. So what better time to start than now? I'm not entirely sure why or how it is that this young girl has come to be in the middle of this ghost's business. I would like to think that they're friends, and that she visits all the time, every night, whenever the ghost can come out of its grave. That being said, there's a skeleton in the background who has come out of a freshly churned grave, and I don't know that he's a regular to these little meetings that these two have. So I wonder what he's listening in on, and what happens from here. I may have to do a follow-up illustration and see, like, are they all friends? Is the skeleton lonely? Like, what's happened here? I kind of like the idea of like a lonely skeleton just being like, hey guys, like, I'm not a ghost, but like, hang out with me. Also, like, what's the process for someone being a consciousness and a ghost versus a consciousness and a skeleton? Like, what does that process look like? Is it because she's a witch that it's a ghost, or Is it because she's a witch that there's the skeleton? Like, what's the magic behind this? What's the story? What's the deets? I am probably the person to answer that, but I don't have the answer just yet. So I may have to give it a little bit more thought. Definitely spend some more time with these characters. I really enjoyed this illustration. I normally draw adults, but I was working with this really small, like, paper. So I originally did the first version of this illustration and was like, I can only fit in a child, which is how that came to be. But I kind of like how cute it is, with this, like, young witch girl who's clearly not afraid to be in a cemetery after dark, and is just, like, vibing with this ghost. I'd like to think that she'll turn around and will discover the skeleton just, like, hanging out in the background and just be like, hey friend, just come and join us, like, hang out. How's life treating you, or death treating you, as the case may be. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at for this one, at least. Now that I'm, like, thinking about it, I really should maybe come back and do a follow-up illustration for this, because I'm kind of curious what the dynamic here is. But yeah, just a little bit of story time. So just to give a little side-by-side comparison, this is the illustration that I did with gouache earlier and hated because it had a lot of problems. And then this is the one that you just made me, or just saw me make today. Technically both of these were made today. So just know that you can always improve on whatever it is that you're working on. Because yikes, my guy. There is a huge difference between both of these, and there's definitely one that I prefer over the other. The only thing that I would maybe change would be on the one that you just watched me make. The palette that I was using is a mini palette that only has 4 colors in it. And I maybe would have grabbed a palette that had a little bit of blue so that I could have changed the values a little bit more in this. But other than that, yeah. Big difference. So if you're interested in this one, it'll be in my shop. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one, and this one will go in the trash. Bye!